Mr. Chairman. First, I want to put in the record a PolitiFact that when Mitch McConnell says U.S.-China climate deal means China won't have anything to do for 16 years, PolitiFact found that mostly false. I want to put that in the record if I can. Thank you. We're hearing from a couple of my Republican friends, and they are my friends. This isn't personal, it's quite important, however. We're hearing from my Republican friends, some of them, a series of scare tactics about the results of continuing to implement the Clean Air Act. And I want to compliment you, Administrator, for your very calm presentation. This is a situation where the Clean Air Act requires you to act. It doesn't require us to act, it requires you to implement the act unless we repeal the Clean Air Act. I haven't heard anyone say they want to repeal the Clean Air Act. If they do, bring it on. But it is true that since Richard Nixon signed the modern Clean Air Act in 1970, I want to make sure that this jives with your understanding, the U.S. GDP, the gross domestic product, has grown by 219%. Private sector jobs have grown by 101%, and common air pollutants have dropped by 72%. Is that about what you
That's about my understanding, Senator.
Okay. Senator Sullivan, in I think a very, aggressive way, and good for him, he says that Obama is abusing his authority. And I want to place into the record the last 3 presidents and how many executive actions they took. Clinton, 364, George W. Bush, 291, and Barack Obama, 200. Now, I think, maybe I'm wrong. I have not really heard anyone ever say that George W. Bush, on the other side, complain about George W. Bush's 291 executive orders, Nixon's 346 executive orders, Reagan's 381 executive orders. But Barack Obama, 200, oh my God, the sky is falling. Isn't this awful? Well, I'm sorry. The record just disproves your point. Now, I believe this is not an administration gone rogue. This is an administration following the Clean Air Act. Don't you agree that is what you are doing?
That's what we're doing, Senator.
And don't you agree there have been 3 Supreme Court decisions that tell you you need to proceed? The first case was Massachusetts versus EPA. The second case was the American Electric Power v. Connecticut. And the third was Utility Air Resources Group v. EPA. Is that correct? Is that your understanding?
Correct.
And don't you have to follow the law?
We do.
And don't you have to follow the Supreme Court?
We do.
And the Supreme Court in that last case, which Senator Sullivan quoted, said they confirmed the Clean Air Act covers carbon pollution. Isn't that correct?
Correct.
So if you didn't do your work, you would be sued for not doing it. Am I right?
In all likelihood.
I think so, because I know some of the folks who'd do it, including me probably, if I had a chance. We have a lot of people at home who care about clean air. We've got the largest number of people. We're up to 38 million people. And cleaning up the air is a primary focus. So I also, with due respect and admiration, and we just get along so well, I have to say my chairman misconstrues the votes in the Senate, and I'm going to put in the record the actual votes, if I might. Thank you. So here's what they are. In October 30th, 2003, McCain-Lieberman went down. That was called, this is McCain's bill, the Climate Stewardship Act of 2003. He was right. It went down. We only had 4 Republicans, Collins, Gregg, McCain, and Snowe, 43-55. On June 22nd, 2005, the McCain Amendment 826 went down in a worse way, 38-60, okay? Then we had Chafee, Collins, Gregg, Lugar, McCain, and Snowe, Republicans. On June 6, 2008, this is the one I remember, the Lieberman-Warner Climate Security Act of 2008 lost because there was a filibuster. 6 people were absent, and they asked that their intentions to vote yes be entered into the record. So we actually had 54 votes at that time. We didn't have the 60, but we had a majority. And then what I want to say to you is, in this recent debate on Keystone, here's what happened. 99-1 the White House amendment declaring that climate change is not a hoax passed with the support of the chairman, and 59 to 40, the Hoeven amendment that said climate change is caused by human activity, won the day, 59-40, but it was filibustered, so it never got where it should have gotten. And then the Schatz Amendment, which says climate change significantly is caused by human activity, passed 50-49. So let's get those in the record. Now, my colleague from Mississippi went into this whole thing about that great movie, The King's Speech. I didn't quite get the connection, but it was cleverly put forward. The bottom line is he's saying that these two newspapers are confusing the matter. So I'm going to put into the record all of the news outlets that reported this story. I have 40, there are many more. Let me tell you who's included, who said the same thing. The Christian Science Monitor, UPI, Chicago Sun-Times, Reuters, AP, Financial Times, Politico, USA Today, National Journal, Virginia Pilot, Time Magazine, Newsweek, Kansas First News, National Geographic, Bloomberg, Smithsonian Magazine, Salt Lake City Tribune, and there was no question that all these outlets reported this, not because they reported it for any particular reason other than this is the truth. Unless my colleague from Mississippi has a right to say that he doesn't believe in NOAA and he doesn't believe in NASA, this is a fact. You can't make this stuff up. Would you agree that this is accurate reporting?
That's certainly what I've understood from those agencies that you mentioned.
Okay. Thank you very much, Joe. You're okay. Now, climate change is projected to harm human health. And my colleague from Mississippi, I wish he was here because I really would love to get into a debate with him, but he's not here because we all have so many obligations, and I understand. We know that climate change increases ground level ozone, particulate matter, in some locations. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
So that when you clean up this carbon, you're really helping the health of the people. Is that not true?
That's correct.
Now, relying again upon substantial scientific evidence, EPA determined that man-made climate change threatens both public health and public welfare. Is that correct? My understanding is that was put forward in the DC in Coalition for Responsible Regulation versus the EPA.
That's the endangerment.
That was the case.
Endangerment finding.
The
you're referring
endangerment
to?
finding, correct.
Yes, correct.
So in the endangerment finding, you found that extreme weather events, changes in air quality, increases in food and waterborne pathogens, and we know that happens because we know it happened in a lake in Ohio, which was devastating, that these increases in temperature are likely to have adverse effects. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So isn't it wrong? I don't want to put you on the spot. I won't put it that way. I'll put it in a positive way. Isn't it clear that those of us who believe that carbon pollution does, in fact, increase the likelihood that people will have breathing difficulties, heart attacks, isn't that, in your mind, a proven fact?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Chairman.